40 years ago this weekend, some of the biggest names from the world of music came together for Live Aid. Staged at Wembley Arena and JFK Stadium in Philadelphia, the fundraiser for famine relief in Ethiopia, organised by Bob Geldof, saw performances from the likes of Queen, David Bowie, Madonna and U2.
On Saturday, the 13th of July 1985, global stars gathered to support Live Aid. Bob Geldof was at the heart of the action. First up, status quo in the UK with Rocking All Over the World.
Yeah, you're right! You're right!
Watched by an estimated 1.5 billion viewers in 150 countries, in Ireland, RT Television broadcast a telethon where viewers were encouraged to pledge donations on the phone. The worldwide event raised over £110 million, with £7 million raised here.
No, let the men and grip do it. That the Irish are beating the English in terms of donations.
And it all grew from a 1984 BBC TV report from Michael Burke about the famine in Ethiopia. 40 years on, what are the memories?
Yeah, it was huge. It was the first time we saw a huge concert on that scale, like a huge, big international thing. Do you know what I mean? It was like in every country. It was a huge, big deal.
So Live Aid, I was 13 years old and I actually live 20 minutes outside of Philadelphia. So I was very young at the time, but I remember the concert and how big of a deal it was.
I remember watching it on the TV when I was a little kid because my mum had the old DVDs from it. That's about it. Freddie Mercury, obviously, everyone's seen that video.
So I was a teenager when Live Aid was on, and obviously I remember the run up to it and why it happened and all those awful pictures and videos on the TV. So I do remember that side, but then remembering it just being an extraordinary event to bring all those stars together.
Evelyn O'Rourke, RT News.
Well, we're joined now live from London by the man who made it all possible, Bob Geldof himself, stepping out from the Live Aid musical Just for One Day at the Shaftesbury Theatre in London. And Bob, thank you indeed for doing that. As we heard in the report, so many of us today being brought back to that time and that place. And when you look back on that period, what are your memories as you brought this spectacular show together in the long hot summer of 1985?
Panic, exhaustion, worry. No contracts with any of these guys. We weren't paying them anything. Would they show up? Would people give us money? I mean, we now know a week later we had, in today's money, $485 million. And for the last 40 years, I wake up every morning dealing with 10 emails, Band-Aid emails from the horror lands. And so we continued to do it. But I think the main thing about Live Aid was it was the beginning of a 20-year walk to the point where in 2005 the boys and girls with guitars and pianos got to corral the political and economic structures of the world and force them for a moment to bend to their will when the Gleneagles G8, where they did what we asked, which was to forgive the debt of the poorest countries in Africa and to double aid. And of course, I think why it resonates, I woke up in Manchester this morning having seen Oasis last night, who are magnificent. But as I got to the lobby, all these people in the lobby were going, Happy Live Aid Day, Bob. You know, sort of like the English have discovered an alternative Patrick's Day or something. But it's mad that they remember. And I think the time, 1985, Thatcher Reagan, has been mirrored kind of now with the sort of death of kindness that Trump and Vance and Musk and these other thugs really have introduced. And I think there's a sense that, you know, that Live Aid gave people an air of possibility that the individual was not powerless in the face of human monstrosity, that the world was not immutable, that things can change and you can be a small part of, you know, tilting the world slightly towards the right.
And that was kind of a message that came out, I think. The 80s were a difficult time and Live Aid created a sense of hope. And you've referenced some of the impact there. But does it sadden you that we still look out on a world with some of the difficulties and the turmoil you've mentioned there?
No, I mean, you know, pop music and pop stars can't resolve the issue of poverty. And most of the wars that you've been reporting are to deal with poverty. You know, ultimately it goes down to that. The horror you've just described in Palestine is beyond disgusting. It's beyond disgrace. But pop music can't resolve that. People constantly ask, should we do a Live Aid for this? No, you've got to posit a solution that if we can all work towards, and if we get this, then this will happen. That's relatively easy when there's a famine. 32 million people about to die of hunger. So the object was, let's stop as many of them dying as possible. Let's get as many people watching, so that creates a political lobby, and we can use that to change the conversation between the North and South. It's far more difficult with what seems to be an intractable situation in Palestine. One, just stop killing. That's one. And two, implement a two-state solution. That's what has been called for years. It's not difficult. But pop music and pop concerts will not do that.
And Bob, just finally, the impact it had on you and you afterwards, and a bunch of young guys with a lot of money distributing the money and having a real impact. Was it worth it for you, and would you do it again?
No, I wouldn't do it again because it wouldn't work this time. The power of pop music, in the rock and roll age, probably ended around 2005, between 55 and 2005, to be neat. When rock and roll was the spine of the culture. It's how society determined ways forward politically, economically, socially, theologically, philosophically. That's no longer true. In 2004, Google, for the first time, made a profit. In 2004, there was a new thing called Facebook invented. So social media determines now those areas. And rock and roll now is like music in the 20s, 30s, 40s. Fabulous artists, fantastic music. But it's gone back to being for you personally, the background to your life, the moment when you kissed that girl or that boy, that'll always be there. But as a determinant of society, I'm less convinced.
Yes, and as for so many of my generation, our memories of Live Aid will also endure, and what you did. Bob, thank you for speaking to us this evening from Shaftesbury Theatre in London.
Thanks, guys.